All right, here's our next video on the Heal the Healers series, and we're going to talk about unprocessed personal trauma. A lot of healers, they wind up getting into the, in quotes, healing business because they're seeking their own healing. They know what they've been through and they think that they want to help others to not experience those same things. But creation, your story, life has a way of reflecting back to you all of your unhealed parts. So therefore, if you wind up feeling like you got emotionally hijacked by a client's story, basically that's your reflection and it's telling you, hey, you need to pause for the cause and take care of yourself. That's a trigger. Triggers are our friends. But to be a healing conduit, you have to be willing to heal yourself and take time out to do that. I would say like a few years ago, when people were really starting to understand that there were medicines available, the plant medicines like ayahuasca was available to heal from. You saw all sorts of people getting on the bandwagon and deciding, not being called to the medicine, but deciding that they were going to serve medicines. And that to me was one of the biggest ways that people run from their own healing, by instead sitting in the medicine and sitting with her long enough to understand her, or having the call to the medicine where she was going to guide and teach you. They just made the decision, the financial decision, that they were going to start serving these medicines. That was alarming to me because I witnessed and I heard about so many abuses taking place of people in medicines by the shamans abusing the participants, sexually assaulting them, things like that. So it got really bad, right? But let's get back to this unprocessed personal trauma. So the healer winds up entering the profession, still carrying all of their unprocessed, or a lot of their unprocessed trauma. And helping others heal becomes a mechanism of control for them to avoid their own emotional wounds. They can project their personal pain on their clients, and they can have expectations of their clients that they should not have. And I will tell you this, I've been there. They can have emotional flooding post a session with their client, where they become overwhelmed with what their client has experienced. They can use their client's therapy, meaning they can hijack their client's session and it becomes about them instead of the client. And they can have like emotional reactivity in sessions, meaning that instead of containing themselves, they are actually doing their processing during the client's session. Yeah, all of that is big, and those are major points for people. I will say this to you. When I began coaching, and I've been in this field since 2010, years into it, I wound up having clients that kept mirroring parts of me that were not healed. And I found myself saying, wow, I've been through that too. Even during the session, I'd be like, I've been through that too. And there's nothing wrong with sharing that you've been through that. But when you are constantly having clients coming back reflecting something that is unhealed within you, understand, number one, you have an agreement with that client to show up and to reflect that back to you. And the way this thing works is this: if you don't get it with one person, then you have an innumerable amount of people who are going to reflect to you what you need to heal and what you have told yourself, I am ready to heal. Because if you are not ready to heal that thing, trust and believe, the person wouldn't be showing up to remind you that you still have this unhealed part. Okay. You want to be careful about deciding to get into this work because you hurt. That kind of leads me into other areas of people who are vampires, emotional, energetic vampires, who have a tendency to want to touch people or try to heal people. I don't care what modality you're doing, but if it's anything where you're actively in a space of manipulating somebody's energy, you need to check yourself if you haven't done your self-work, because you are actually sharing your traumas with people. You got to be careful, especially if you're touching people. If you find that you are one of these people who find yourself almost trauma bonding with your clients, or that you've come into this work because you have so much trauma and everything, take a moment and sit down. Back to the time when I was coaching and I started getting all of those reflections, I took off. I stopped for several years, and I stopped on purpose because I knew that I needed to do some work for me. I stopped for 6 years and I focused on myself and working on myself. And it was important. It was important because I didn't want to show up as this person who was trauma bonding or constantly having clients reflecting back to me all my parts that were just delicate and sensitive, and sitting there and trying to maintain my integrity in my sessions when literally I knew that they were reflecting me. You have to start doing your shadow work, and you have to do it regularly. The next thing is, don't be afraid to take a moment and sit down and to work on yourself and to heal yourself, because first and foremost, your main journey here is to heal you. It's to see you and to return to love. The next thing is that you should be able to hold clear, compassionate space without emotional projection, not projecting your pains onto other people. And that you should feel steady, and you shouldn't be triggered in your sessions. And the way that you know that you're triggered, and this is how I know when I've healed, is that I can sit in a session and I can speak about a trauma and not get emotional about it. You can sit and you can tell a story about deep pain and not be emotional about it. That's because you have walked through all that pain and your body has released it, the emotions that were sitting with you waiting for you to address it. So the whole thing is this: be clear about your unprocessed personal trauma, and don't use helping others heal as a way to ignore what needs to be healed within you. Okay? Peace.